in general, I think as an editor, you're always looking for a reason to keep reading. Something that keeps you going, and that can be a lot of different things. So having said that, there are also things that, and this sounds a little harsh, but I think that there are things that are kind of deal breakers right off the start. How long do we read? How far do we read? And we'll talk about this a little bit, but I would say, again, it sounds a little bit harsh, but maybe a page or two, because we just don't have the time and energy and resources to read all the way through to the end of a manuscript. And the kinds of things that you're looking for in a piece, in a good piece, are pretty much happening right off the bat. And it has to do with a sense of voice, which is kind of hard to talk about what that exactly is, but it's got to be evident right there at the beginning. And a sense of structure, that this piece is going to take you someplace. The idea of, I like the phrase, seamless dream, that you're entering into the world of this writer, and as was said earlier, that you trust this voice, you trust this writer to take you someplace, that there's something at stake, there's something going on, and there is going to be an element of surprise, and you're going to learn something or gain a sense of pleasure. Something is going on there. Often I think the deal breakers with pieces are things that are very simple and often have to do with people just not really paying attention, or they're sending out a piece that's not quite ready to go yet. It could be problems with verb tenses, or just it hasn't been edited very closely or proofread. There's not enough sense of dynamic energy in the very beginning. And I like to use a word or the term kind of muscled prose, in the sense that I want to see that the writing is strong and that it's been edited and looked at very closely, and there aren't a lot of problems with punctuation or extra adjectives, all those sort of very basic things. So those are the kinds of things that good editing will kind of eliminate, and those are often, I think, the deal breakers. At any rate, briefly, the piece that I wanted to read briefly to you is in our new issue, and I'm just going to read a little bit from the opening, and then I'm going to ask Tom, who's our assistant managing editor this semester, to just come up and say a word about this particular piece. This is a piece that we got, and Tom really went to bat for it. He fell in love with it, and we published it, and it's gorgeous, and it's doing all the things that I think a good piece should do right off the bat. I'll just read just a little bit. This is by Steve Adams, and the title is Touch. When you receive body work, what most people won't tell you, and what you may not tell yourself, is that the experience is personal. How could it be otherwise? Fears and issues are often bound in injuries, and some injuries are more personal than others. There you are, depending on the particular practice, lying naked under a sheet or exposed in your underwear or in sweatpants and a t-shirt, relinquishing your body to someone who begins as a stranger. So this is a piece about massage therapy, basically, and this particular paragraph ends with, injuries break boundaries, they reshape us emotionally and physically. Sometimes they create doorways and humble us to the point where we can step through. This is a love story. So what I like about this opening is that it gives us a sense of voice and presence and conflict, something's at stake. And then that last line, this is a love story. And I think that as an editor, that's what I want to say. What I really want to have happen in a piece, I want to fall in love with the piece. And that's what happened with this. So Tom, you want to come up just for real quick? And just why because he pulled this out of the slush pile, and we think it's going to be a very big deal.
We hope it's going to be a very big deal. I thank you so much, Kristen, for asking me to do this. I read this piece back last March. We received it in the slush pile. And I, in a rare moment of being really on top of things, was the first to read this piece. And I read it all the way through, and the line after, there's a section break after what Kristen read, and the next line goes as follows. One morning in Austin about 15 years ago, I woke to find my right testicle had suffered a trauma overnight and was fixed rigidly to the base of my member. Now, there's a shift in between what Kristen read and what I read that really grabs you, it certainly grabbed me. I was like, oh, this piece has taken a turn. And by the time I had finished reading it, I was, the comment that I wrote on our little sheet was, I love this piece so much. and I don't think we would ever publish it. And this was my first semester as an editor for the Pinch, and I guess at that point I wasn't as confident as I might be now. But it went through the other editors and with a very similar response, very enthusiastic, but also kind of pessimistic and kind of like, well, this isn't really what we're about or something. And then the managing editor wrote, yeah, this isn't especially pinchy, but maybe that doesn't matter. And then the piece sits in our file cabinet the entire summer. It was there for 6 months. And then that fall, several weeks into the semester, I was going through the files and I came across Touch and I was like, crap, this has been sitting here for 6 months and what are we going to do? I read it again, and again, by the end of the piece, and this has been true every time I've read it, I've just been moved to tears. And I just passed it along to Kristen, and who read it and wrote nothing more than beautiful work at the bottom. And I contacted Steve with this very ornate apology, and then we spent the next month fine-tuning the piece, and every time I've read it, I've just loved it, and the response to this piece has been really remarkable. I mean, we've been getting emails about it. People at the conference this week have been talking about it. It's really gratifying, really gratifying.